Good afternoon, and welcome to our Oak Bend Medical Center Happy Hour podcast. My name is Donna, and I am your host. Today, we're going to talk about children. You know, school's out, and summer safety is at everybody's forefront. How am I going to take care of my kids? What are we going to do? Times have changed. So today, we have a very special guest. Chief Provost has been in law enforcement professional for over 31 years. She started her career at the Houston Police Department, moving up the ranks to assistant chief. She is currently the chief deputy with Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office. Chief Provost's passion for giving back to the community is apparent as she has mentored students in various school districts. She believes her volunteerism will build stronger communities. She is also the first female deputy chief of Fort Bend County. And we want to welcome her today. We're real excited to have her in our community. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, Chief Deputy, you've been in office and working on some things, but I understand that the Sheriff's Office has a variety of programs for children. Would you like to kind of expand on that a little bit?
Yes, ma'am, I'd be happy to. So we are very, very proud of our Kids and Cops program that the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office currently has. We have 9 dedicated deputies. That's all they do is Kids and Cops, various programs. And people may be familiar with what was known as the DARE program before, Drug Abuse Resistance Education. Kids and Cops originally started out as the DARE program, and they ended up changing it. DARE went through a transitional period. DARE was a nationwide program. They had a particular curriculum that you had to follow. You could not veer from that curriculum. But in certain schools, sometimes you may have to tweak the program a little bit, and it wasn't approved to do that. As a result of that, Fort Bend County decided that they would change the name and go with a Kids and Cops program where they could make it specific to certain schools. And if they needed to tweak the curriculum or tweak the program, they were allowed to do that. So Kids and Cops is specific to the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office. I was actually a DARE instructor when I worked with the Houston Police Department, not just that I instruct, but I supervise. So I'm very, very familiar with what the curriculums were. And our curriculum almost mirrors that curriculum. The only difference is that we can tweak it when we need to for the different schools. I tend to look at our program as we are there to bridge that gap in between law enforcement and our youth that's coming up. What this program does is it teaches life coping skills. Life coping skills, everything from be aware of drugs, don't do drugs, don't smoke cigarettes, don't start something that you wouldn't want to finish, and being aware of the consequences that might lead to your actions. And one of the things I used to tell my students, not just my students, but my own kids, is one decision, whether good or bad, could change the rest of your life. So think about everything you do before you do it, and think about the consequences for those actions and see what may happen. And if you can live with those consequences, then you go right ahead and do it. But keeping in mind that once you as a student mess up, then it's not just about you, it's about your entire family, because your parents normally have to come in and bail you out. And if you have siblings, then they have to be a part of that also. So I think the gist of it is just teaching those life coping skills, getting kids ready for life. And schools don't always have those particular things in the curriculum. And so that's where we come in. And anytime our deputies are in a school, they're in uniform, because we want the kids to become familiar with this uniform, and we want to build up that trust and relationship. And that's it. That's the key word, is relationship. You don't build a relationship by going and talking to somebody one time, right? You have to keep that up over and over. And that's why we're in over 20 plus schools in 3 different school districts, as well as private schools. And every week we are in the schools. In the 5th grade, we take the place of social studies. So in the 7th grade, we go in the health class. And then in the high school, we go in the health class also. So
Awesome. Now, times have just changed so much from my day of being a child, where you kind of were outside all over town and you came home when the street lights came on.
Mm-hmm.
It's different for kids today. I watch my grandkids. It's different to be out in the community and the things you have to watch for. So now that school is over, I do understand that y'all have a Kids and Cops summer camp. Would you like to talk about that and let us know what's available?
Yes, ma'am. Our summer camps will start on June the 7th. We have 8 different camps. They start every Monday. They're day camps. They're from 8 to 4 p.m. And within that week, it's a 4-day week. Within that week, we do 2 field trips, one to Typhoon, Texas, and then the other one is to Main Event. And both of those are located in the Katy area. So you have to register in order to be admitted to the camp. It's first come, first serve. Each camp has about 48 students in it. The cost is $80, but we don't want anybody to not try to go to the camp because financial aid is available for certain students because we want them to be able to enjoy themselves. Along with that, that $80 pays for their lunch, a t-shirt, a backpack, and face mask. I realize that we're starting to, if you've been vaccinated, then they say you don't have to wear a face mask, but most of our children have not been vaccinated at this point. And some of the children are not even eligible for vaccinations because it starts at age 12. And our camps are age group from 10 to 12 years old.
Okay. And is it still time to register?
Yes, ma'am. It's easy to register. If you put in Kids and Cops on the internet or go to the Fort Bend County website, then the applications are on there and all the information about the camps are also on there.
Awesome. A great program from kids that have had idle hands and
exactly. So we want the kids to be active during the summer. And this is one way. In those camps, they do a lot of activities. But one of the things that they do, they try to identify each kid's strength and bring those strengths out. And they want those kids to look at what other kids' strengths are and try to play on those strengths so that you can become stronger with those strengths. They talk about bullying, some of the same things that, they talk about in the curriculum. They have sessions where they actually sit down and they talk to the kids. So the summer programs are very, very fun, but they also take the time out to have sessions so that they can get some type of education out of them also. So they mix it with the fun trips as well as, doing the necessary talks that we need for them to have.
It sounds like there's a lot of life skill learning.
It is. Once again, it's those life coping skills that we want them to learn, the hands-onness. And it's those 9 deputies. They're all in, they're hands-on, they're just playing with the kids. They want the kids to feel very, very comfortable. And these are the times when the deputies are not in uniform. Normally when they're in school, they're in uniforms, but these are the times when they're just out there playing with the kids. They get into the water with the kids. They're dancing with the kids. They're just showing the kids that police officers are human also. So we're not on a pedestal. We're just human. We're no different than anybody else in society.
So I encourage our listeners to go on the website at Fort Bend County or Google Kids and Cops, Fort Bend County, and look if it's something for your children, grandchildren, maybe a neighbor child. You want to give them a gift.
Exactly.
This would make an excellent gift for our kids.
And
so I encourage people to do exactly. So now let's get on to summer safety, and kids are out riding their bikes and running through the neighborhood and everything else. Can you talk to us a little bit about bicycle safety?
Yes, ma'am. We take bicycle safety very, very serious. First of all, if you're in that age group where you need a parent to be with you, I would encourage parents to be outside with their children while they're riding their bikes. I know that a lot of us like to ride our bikes on the street. If you do ride your bike on the street, then make sure that you're riding in the direction of the traffic. But if it's younger kids, then I would encourage the parents to let them ride on the sidewalk and be there with them. But first and foremost, I guess the biggest things is putting them on their safety gear and their bicycle helmets. That's very, very important for the kids to wear their helmets just in case they take a fall. And some kids even use knee pads as well as elbow pads. So if they do fall, then they won't get as injured or won't get injured at all. Making sure that as a parent, you make sure that you teach the kids about the different traffic signs and teach them how to understand those signs and to ensure that they obey those signs for their own safety, not just their safety, but for other pedestrians as well as people that are driving. Young children should always walk their bikes through the intersections. So we don't want them trying to ride their bikes through the intersections. You have to wait until you press the button and you have the hand that says it's clear for you to cross the street, and then get off the bike and walk it through the intersection. So if you follow all those rules, then I think that not only will the child be safe, but the people the other pedestrians as well as the drivers of vehicles will also be safe.
Awesome. And driving and riding with the traffic.
Yes. You want to make sure that you remember that to ride in the direction of the traffic.
Good to know. We're at a time, and I don't think anybody could see we've ever been here with human trafficking and our children being exposed to danger by other people, gun safety, all of these things. I know that y'all have a child fingerprinting program.
You do.
And a child safety awareness program. Can you speak to those things, and how would a parent get into that?
We teach stranger danger and gun safety. We have a child identification kit. Within that kit, the parents could actually swab for DNA for their own children, as well as they could take their children's fingerprints and have those records on file. God forbid that something would ever happen and you would need that. But if for some reason your kid is abducted or your kid is missing and you cannot find them, then this would help law enforcement. The other thing that we ask parents to do is, if you're going to be out in the public, especially with young children, that you take a picture. In the day and age of cell phones, there's a camera on everybody's cell phone now, that you take a picture every time you go out with your child. Number one, that tells us what your child may have been wearing that day. If for some reason they get lost or somebody was to abduct them, then this just gives us more of a head start. Sometimes we get up in the morning and we go through the routine and we put our kids on clothes, and especially if you have more than one child and you're trying to remember, now, did I put them on jeans and a t-shirt, or did I put them on, a dress, or what did I put them on? If you have that picture, that will show exactly what your child was wearing that day. And that will help us to be on the lookout for child that's 7 years old and everything that they have on, the colors that they have on. And if you got any other information, like if there was a vehicle there, if you're at the park playing with your kids or your grandkids and you saw a suspicious person just sitting in the car, first of all, I would say if you thought that somebody was suspicious, to go with your guts. There's no harm in you calling that in and saying, hey, would you mind sending a deputy our way, or send a deputy by the park? Me and my grandkids are out and something just doesn't look right. So we ask people to be aware and to follow their guts on those type of things. The other thing, the reason we started doing the DARE program and teaching with the uniform is, if for some reason your child did get lost, you want your children to run to someone in uniform, not run away from someone in uniform. And you talk about the times that we're living in right now. And this is a really, really tough time for law enforcement with everything that's going on in society right now. Now is probably a better time than any is to build that trust between our young people and our communities, not just the young people, but the parents of the young people and law enforcement, knowing that law enforcement, we're only human and things may happen, but don't judge every person that's in uniform by the actions of one person. And that tends to happen. And I'll tell you, when I would be out in uniform on duty, maybe eating in Luby's, And we would pass by parents with their children, and sometimes they would tell their children, you see that police officer, or you see that deputy right there, I'm going to tell them to put you in jail if you're still acting up. But I would take that time and use it as a teachable moment, and not just for the children, but for the parents. And I would go over and I would tell the parents, I said, no, the police, you see this uniform, we're the good guys. And I tell the parents, would you want your kid to run to me or from me and to a stranger who you don't know? At least we've had training. We've gone through, all types of background checks. So chances are we're going to be pretty good people. We're there to save your children. We're there to bring your children back home to you. So I always looked at that as teachable moments. And by the time I would finish talking to the parents about it, they would understand and say, okay, I understand. And they would then follow up with what I said to their children. So
it's amazing how important our words are.
Yes.
And how our words can influence our children so easily. Mm-hmm. But I agree, it is a bad time for our police officers. And I personally want to thank every one of them that serve, because it's a tough time. Yeah. And we need to give everyone the respect that they deserve.
Exactly. So also about gun safety, we have partnered with Be Smart program. Matter of fact, within the last couple of months, we have donated over 175 gun locks to the Be Smart program so that they can pass them out to people in the community. We tell children, if you find a gun, to stop and don't touch it, and to go tell a trusted adult. Whether you believe it's a real gun or whether you believe it's a BB gun or even a water gun, if it looks like a real gun, stop, don't touch it, and go tell a trusted adult without you trying to experiment with that. And we also tell the parents, and Be Smart also tells the parents, if you have weapons in your home, and I understand, that we're living in some times where people want to keep weapons in their homes. But if you keep a weapon in your home, don't think that a child is naive enough that they don't see you when you put it up. Make sure it's either in a lockbox or it has a gun lock on it, and you're the person that has the key to it. I mean, I would even encourage parents to keep their weapons unloaded. And I realize that people always ask us and say, well, if the weapon is unloaded and something was to happen, then I don't have time to load the weapon. Well, I think that you could go into a private area. Let's say somebody was breaking in your home. You should always have a plan. You go into a hidden closet or a closet somewhere and you get your weapon down and you load it at that point. I'd rather do that. And I'm in law enforcement. So, I had 3 children of my own. My husband was in law enforcement. And so we always kept our weapons locked up and went that extra mile and put that gun safety lock on that trigger so that you don't have any accident. Because once it happens, then it happens. You do all those things, then you're not negligent. And some people say, well, I've already trained my kids. I've already taught my kids about, gun safety. But what about when your kids have their friends over? So if you're not doing it for your kids, if you believe that your kids are good with this, then do it for others that come into your home, other kids that may come into your home that haven't had those same talks with their parents like you've had with your children. So it's very, very important, that we be very, very diligent about gun safety.
Great advice. Now, Fort Bend Sheriff's Office also has a youth crime prevention program and teaches children how to use 911 and drug prevention.
Yes, ma'am. McGruff, the crime dog. Sometimes we take McGruff to the schools. Sometimes we take them to community events to interact with the public, reiterating that famous message to take a bite out of crime. Kids and cops deputies often put on programs in the community relating to 911 also. And we have, it's called Cell Phone Sally. Cell Phone Sally is the newest mascot that Fort Bend County has. So many families have cell phones now instead of home phones. So kids need to know their address, number one, to help first responders know where the help is needed. Back in the old days, people always had a landline. There was no such thing as just cell phones in the home. But now people are doing away with their landlines. Landlines are very, very good for us as law enforcement because then we know when you make that call from that phone, then the dispatchers can trace it back to that landline. That landline is connected to an address. Cell phones are not. Parents need to teach their children their addresses and a phone number that they need. So in case they have to get on a cell phone and dial 911, after that, they need to be able to give the dispatcher a physical address to where the help is needed. So if you don't have a landline, then I would suggest that, the kids learn their addresses. The kids need to know their addresses anyway, just in case they're lost for some reason and they can't find their way home. And somebody does find them, whether it be a police officer or just a general citizen finds them, then they can take them back home.
Awesome. Chief, I don't have words. I had no clue. And I have a confession. I'm like a lot of people. You hear Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office and you think about law enforcement. Mm-hmm. I had no clue all the programs that you have available for the children of our community. How do we get this word out? How do we get people? Do you have good participation in these programs?
We do. Well, number one, the programs that we do in the schools, that the schools allow us time doing the curriculum. Like I said, during 5th grade, we go in during the social studies time. And during 7th grade and high school, we go in during the health curriculum time where we get in there and we're able to talk. In addition to just being there with the curriculum, I think if we can get the kids talking, like I said, I taught the DARE program, and you when you teach, there's 30 kids or more in a classroom, but it's just you. You'd be amazed at some of the kids that walk up and say, "Are you Officer Provost? You taught me the DARE program." And of course, I'm like, "Oh, I didn't recognize you." As kids grow, you don't really recognize them. But the amazing thing is that these kids take the message that we give them, they take it home. I remember a student was very, very upset because we used to teach them about nicotine and if you don't create a bad habit, then you don't have to worry about it in your adulthood. So we would tell them the best thing to do is to not smoke. And I remember a kid coming to me in tears saying that she had gone home and she had told her dad to please stop smoking because of the consequences of what smoking does for you and secondhand smoke would do for you. And she said he has continued to smoke. But what that told me was that this is not, the message that we're giving is not falling on deaf ears. These kids are taking that message home. They're encouraging their parents to go to community programs. We have parades like for Red Ribbon Week in October. We do full-fledged parades where we have the cheerleaders there, we have the teachers there, we have the students there, we invite the parents. Even at the end of the semester, when the kids graduate from our programs, we invite the parents and we go through a summary of what your kids have learned from us through the whole summer program. And with that, the parents want their kids to learn more. I mean, who doesn't want what's best for their children? And once they hear what we're teaching them, then they tell people. People don't always go to the website to say, what exactly is, the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office doing? Yeah, they can get it from there, but I think the best source is word of mouth, where we talk to people, we go to community events, and then people pass that on. Just 2 weeks ago, we went to one of the ladies in our area turned 100 years old, and her family was having this big car parade for her. And we took our water vehicle. We took like 3 or 4 vehicles. We had solo police officers there, which is our motorcycles. And we came in with the lights and the siren, and all the neighbors were out. And it was just a huge, huge deal for her. And the families were just so appreciative. They were happy. They wanted to shake all the officers' hands. And so I think us going out there and doing a lot of community events gets the word out that we're not just here to go and arrest the bad guys. Yeah, we do that too, but we do a lot of good in the community also.
I hear and I see, and I'm excited to know that we've got all this going on in the community. Too often we say we've grown so much, we've lost that community feel. But I think our sheriff's office is doing a great job to keep us involved in the community, and we need to support that. We really need to support our children. Nothing is worse than seeing a child who's injured or has been shot
Yes.
by a gun that's been left alone coming into the hospital. So we want to make sure that we don't see those things and support the sheriff's office with that. Chief, it has been a pleasure having you here today. Is there anything else you'd like us to know?
So we're in the summer months. We're, hot days of summer. So one of the things that I wanted to touch on is drowning and pool safety. So drowning is the leading cause of unintentional deaths among children, and especially in the age group of 1 to 4 years old. So there's nearly one drowning per day in the United States. That's unbelievable statistics, but it's the truth. And most of it happens during the summer months. So I would just tell the parents, and I know this is all common sense stuff, but sometimes we think that, if we just run and do this one little thing, it's not going to take us long. But never leave a child unattended, near or around any body of water. And when kids are in the pools, regardless of whether they can swim or not, teach your kids to stay away from the drains because their hair could get caught in the drainage and then they cannot come up. And more important than anything else is learn CPR. So on June the 26th, we have another community event that we're partnering with the EMS office, and we're going to do 2 different sessions for parents. We're going to teach them CPR on the mannequins. So we're going to have EMS here teaching that. We're going to talk about gun safety, and we're going to talk about, pool safety for parents. We're going to do 2 different sessions on that Saturday. They're going to be about 2 hours each, and they're going to be limited to about 25 people per session. So look at our website. We will be posting that information. It's coming up at the end of June, as I said, June the 26th, and we'll have more information about that. So if you're interested in coming and learning CPR, which I would advise everybody within my ear that can hear me talking to definitely learn CPR. You never know when it's going to be necessary and when you can save somebody's life.
That is a true statement. So everybody go to the website, look at the children's programs, check out the programs so that you know CPR, gun safety, all of those things. They are here for us. Let them know we support them. Yes. They're all having a hard time. When you see them in a restaurant, thank them for their service. We're incredibly grateful for all you're doing.
Thank you.
We are excited to have a long-term relationship, as we always have. And let's keep this community safe together. And it takes the community to do that.
It does. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on. And if there's anything that, of course, the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office can do for you guys or anyone that's listening, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We're always here to help.
I want to thank you, Chief Provost, for joining us today. And a big thank you to our listeners in tuning in. Beginning now, set an intention and a relentless focus on living your life as the greatest person you can be in all situations. Please join us next week, and do not forget to go to the website at Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office and see all the services that they offer. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Oak Bend Medical Center Happy Hour podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's broadcast and invite you to email us at oakbendhappyhourpodcast@obmc.org with any questions or topics that you would like for us to cover. Remember, you can find us here each Friday at 5. Until next week, be mindful and stay healthy.